It's time for us to review the papers this morning. Let's start with a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today, Monday, May 19, 2025. These are the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust. From the very top, how Boko Haram killed 90 farmers in Borno in just 5 months. The gruesome details and the security concerns are in page 20, and we're obviously witnessing a resurgence of attacks. We understand that the governor had to spend the night in Marte just to assess the severity of the situation and also to provide some sort of leadership in that area, which is quite commendable, if I must say. Opposition kicks as Northwest APC endorses Tinubu for second term. I mean, a precursor to what many would say is already given. Most presidents simply get the green light if they decide to run for a second term with very little opposition, I might add. Page 15 has all the details on that story. And to a disturbing story from Kwara, 37 persons die in Kwara boat accident. And the big story is pretty much analyzing the political landscape across Nigeria with automatic tickets, contracts fueling defections to APC. And you can hear all the varying opinions about this on pages 3, 4, and 5. And that unmistakable picture of the Pope and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a handshake at the installation of Pope Leo XIV at the Vatican over the weekend. And just by the side there, you can see the picture of the former governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, Labour Party's presidential candidate in 2023, Peter Obi, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Rome. I can also see the president's son there, Sheyi, just by the side. Bandits kill 49 in Katsina, Kebbi, and Benue. And there's a lot more on the pages of the Daily Trust newspaper for today. Let's take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper now for some more news stories. How about this one? The big story, 2027 coalition. Atiku camp offers Obi VP role in one-term deal. That is what the Punch is reporting. Opposition leaders may dump SDP for ADC as new coalition platform. And we did hear from the ADC over this past 72 to 48 hours or 48 hours to 72 hours about a possibility of that coalition taking place on the platform of the SDP. But a lot of this is quite speculative, to say the least. CBN slashes federal government loans by over 4 trillion naira. It looks like we're cancelling these debts one after the other. Hopefully, it's not to the detriment of national development. I believe that's what most people would say. Resurgent attacks, federal government, Borno revamp anti-terror strategy. And federal government's electricity debt balloons by 800 billion naira, according to the Nigerian Senate. On Japa, Dr. Drain devastates 12 states. It'll be interesting to take a look at that story. All right, so let's bring in our newspaper reviewer this morning. Ben Ukeji is the associate editor, Abuja Digest newspaper. He's joined us to provide some context and backstory to some of these leading news stories this morning. Mr. Ben, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good morning. It's my pleasure.
Right, let's start with this endorsement. The political scene has been quite active over the past couple of months. I mean, no surprises there. Northwest governors, senators, everybody else has endorsed Tinubu for a second term. Why do you think the Northwest is leading this charge already?
Well, I don't want to use the word unfortunate, but you know, it's politics. So in politics, so many things do happen, and so many deals can be closed and all that. But you know, because I do not see the reason why at this material time, the Northwest, for instance, or any other camp will be endorsing the president who is yet to even complete 2 years in office. And even that, if he has completed the 2 years in office, I think it should be about the scorecard to show to Nigerians what he has done within the mandate.
This is premature?
Yes, premature, because You know, you have not really seen what the president has put on ground yet, and then you are endorsing him for another term. And I think is what they have their right. You know, it's politics and it's a voluntary engagement. So every Nigerian has his right or group to either endorse or not endorse. But I think for you to be endorsing a sitting government at this time is premature, because if you look at performance, I don't think the government has performed ultimately to deserve, you know, I'm being honest here, to deserve a second term. Talk less of endorsing for another term. So I think we, like what our review said, that we de-emphasize things that we should emphasize and emphasize things that we shouldn't have emphasized. We emphasized a lot about politics. That is why some scholars believe Nigeria is a disease control state, an overdevelopmental state. You know, a state that emphasized issues that ordinary should be emphasized. Now we are emphasizing much on politics other than governance. You know, there should be governance. How do you explain a situation where someone has not even completed the 2 years in office or the 4-year mandate, and then you are busy endorsing?
Is this just a,
you know,
a phenomenon that is beyond Nigeria? Because take, for instance, what's happening in the United States. I mean, Trump is less than 5 months into his administration, so to say, right?
Yeah.
And we're already hearing about a possibility of a third term for him, right? Is this just a human thing?
Yeah, it's a human thing. But you know, Trump behaved typically like a Nigerian politician.
Really?
Yeah, he does. His element, temperaments, and his act is much similar to our own brand of politics here. You know, in other climes, like in the US, the politics there is but a little bit more refined. But if you see the kind of things he brought into office, don't forget, he lost an election and he was refusing to exit office, you know. So it's a characteristic that is similar to Nigerian politicians or politicians in the third world countries that have a sit-tight approach to issues.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
More on politics, this story is pretty much going deep into the wave of defections. Says automatic tickets contracts fueling defections to the APC. A lot of people feel there's a lot of carrot that the administration or the APC is dangling before some of the defectors, leading them to jump ship and join the APC. Do you think this is a trend that is likely going to continue, especially when the reporting is talking about contracts and automatic tickets for these individuals?
Yeah, I believe there's a lot of things amiss. There's a lot of things water under the ground, because it couldn't just be ordinary with this level mass movement, defection, cross-carpeting to the ruling party. I think there are some set incentives. And I largely agree with the reports in Daily Trust today, because automatic ticket contracts, fueling this thing. Yes, possibility of, you know, trading, you know, offering them an automatic ticket or contract or something, even bringing issues of prosecution, you know, ESCC cases. You know, there are a lot of that. But I think it is a dangerous trend. You know, I'm a political scientist as well. So I think it is a very, very dangerous trend. You know, when you begin to see, because democracy thrives on opposition. Democracy thrives when you have varying opinions, you know, ideological lineage, even though there's a death of ideological beliefs in Nigerian politics of today that we are seeing. You don't see anyone seems to have an ideology where he or she belongs. But it is a dangerous trend, because when all of them congregate, you know, moved to the APC, and the place can be saturated, and then what you find eventually is despotism, statism, autocratism. You know, I think I've written an article about this, and I think that is where eventually this may lead us. But a lot of people, especially the beneficiary, the APC, are clapping. People are happy, celebrating. Yes, every political party wants more membership. So in as much as people come in, they will celebrate. But I think we shouldn't slide into dictatorship or despotism. That's my advice.
Right, okay. It remains to be seen. This is a shifting sand that we're witnessing right now. But obviously, it's been one-way traffic.
Yeah.
Only APC has been receiving much
Yeah.
of the defectors that have decamped recently.
Yes.
Talking security now, on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, we have this one from Borno where, according to the reporting, 90 farmers have been killed in 5 months. You come to the north central and part of the northwest, bandits have killed 49 in Katsina, Kebbi, and Benue.
Yeah.
On one hand, we're saying that the security forces are doing a good job in pushing back and restoring law and order to some of these volatile areas. But on the other hand, the reality is that there's still a lot more work to be done because of the impact that has been recorded over the past couple of weeks and months, especially in Borno most recently. What do you make of the efforts and what we've been told? Because the security meeting that the president had with service chiefs just a couple of days ago suggests that they received new marching orders.
Yeah, what I can make out of this is, I think this war has been on for over a decade. You know, this insurgency thing that started in Borno State has been on over a decade. But I think what we seems to have been losing ground, all the successes we achieved in the past, you know, it seems to be eluding us. And I think it's because of complacency. I believe very strongly that the gains the military achieved, you know, they relaxed. I think this is my own opinion. I believe very strongly that, you know, when you cannot completely wipe up an insurgency war, you end an insurgency war, but you reduce it to a minimum. So we pushed back, you know, pushed ISWAP, Boko Haram elements. So the military successively, you know, degraded them, pushed them back. So at that point, for us to have continued to still hold the ground, you know, we now went celebrating. I think that's what has happened. And the enemies, which is the Boko Haram, so went to hibernation, you know, and regrouped, and then resurgent and come back. And I think that is what is happening. Instead of, we shouldn't have been celebrating at that time. We should have continued with the push, or vigilance, surveillance should have been apt. But I think we were over-celebrated. And it's a tactics. What the Boko Haram elements did was a tactic to retreat, hibernation, and then come back in full gear. And that is what has happened. You can hear in the past, there was nothing like they using drone. You know, but nowadays, there are reports that they begin to use that.
Is that the application of technology and modern warfare is going to make this
very
counter-terrorism operations more difficult?
Difficult and challenging for the Nigerian military. The Nigerian military should have been the one that should have been advancing, using this technology, modern age technology, to tackle this threat. But now it seems the insurgents have acquired it and are doing that. So that would be very dangerous, because if the insurgents can attack the military formation base from a distance using area drone, then it's going to be very, very dangerous and difficult for us to win the war. I also wish or advise that expected that by now the military should have been using drone, you know, to attack them. You don't need, when you use more of technology, you minimize losses, casualties on your own part, you know, instead of putting more soldiers on the ground, on the foot. When you use technology and attack these enemies from after conducting surveillance, air surveillance, and then attack them from a distance, then you reduce casualty on your part, you know, and that would have been better.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I don't know. The use of drone has not been very effective. The military has not adopted that option. I wonder what the problem is.
I mean, we understand that the president has given them go-ahead for a lot more procurement. That's what the Chief of Defense Staff is saying. But finally, on the Punch, there's reported offers that have been put on the table. And we understand that Peter Obi might have been offered to be Atiku's running mate in a one-term deal. I mean, it's quite speculative, but what do you make of that potential? I mean, it is something that has been rumored before, but what do you make of it?
Well, Peter Obi and Atiku boggled their opportunity to become president and vice president, respectively, in the 2023 election. You know, when they refused, they couldn't agree on who to go first and that. Now, a deal of Atiku offering Peter Obi one ticket. Yes, I understand that democracy has to do with numbers. You know, it's the numerical strength, the voting strength, of an individual or geographical area that determines who actually win election in a democratic environment. But I do understand that we are Africans because we have our cultures, we have our ethos, and here in Nigeria we have designed or fashioned a way of managing our own presidency. You know, maybe due largely because of our beliefs in certain sentimental religion, destination, and all that. So it's like the turn by turn. So we here would do a rotational presidency. And I believe very strongly in that. Yes, not that anywhere doesn't have qualified persons to vie for presidency, but, you know, at this material time, I believe that the North, you know, that considered, you know, the presidency in the 2023 general election to the South, owing to the fact that a northerner in President Muhammadu Buhari has just completed 8 years term. Right. You know, that is a gentleman agreement that was on ground. So, and I think that was why a lot of northern governors such as El-Rufai and Kor worked very hard for Tinubu to emerge as the candidate of the APC against the wishes. So now, on what basis that Atiku is now offering Peter Obi a vice president on a one-term basis? I think somebody that should be talking about one-term, it should be a southerner, you know, because I believe that if a southerner comes now, he has to do just 4 years to complete the 8 years for this, so and then the powers has to return back to the north in 2031.
You think the original arrangement should not be changed?
Of the rotational basis?
Yeah, the understanding, the original.
No. I don't believe it should be changed.
Right.
I don't believe it should, in as much as I believe in competence, you know, merit. But it shouldn't be changed because it is fundamental in our own system. You know, every society has its own ways of managing its own peculiarities. Don't forget that even when democracy started in Athens, Greece, moved to UK, they found a way of managing democracy with monarchical system of government. So you can fashion out a system that works for us.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're going to have to leave it here for now. Mr. Ben Ukeji, thank you so much for the analysis and for the context to some of these stories.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
And of course, with that, we wrap things up for today's edition of the program. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daybreak. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 a.m. Until next time, I'm Abdullahi Ahmed.